Welcome back. And we're moving into our first conversation for this morning as we're joined by ACP Chester Williams talking about keeping our property, businesses, personal safe. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Marlene, and I must have a good co-host.
I want to help you this morning. I'm still coming.
So, this is such an important topic, and I think that we appreciate you coming in to be able to talk with us and, by extension, the public about the ongoing issues here in the city. We understand that there has been a development in terms of a potential suspect that has been detained in the spate of robberies we've seen in the city. Is that the case?
Well, yes, we are looking at a number of persons who we believe might be behind these robberies occurring. And it is not just one set of persons. We have different groups that are involved. But there is a particular group whose name is always being called whenever these robberies occur. And we have been after them. We have charged them with some robberies already. They go to court, they got bail, and they're out again, and now we have to continue to monitor their activities.
Now, we know that there's been some reactive measures put in place, specifically downtown. There's been some coordinated chat groups and kind of reaching out to businesses so that they can feel more protected and can report anything suspicious.
Yes, I mean more proactive. You mean more proactive and not reactive?
Well, reacting to the spate of robberies that took place.
Proactive in the sense that we're trying to avoid robberies from occurring. And
we'll leave that up to everybody else's interpretation, which one they choose. But the point is, in being able to keep people aware of the risks that are in place so that they aren't ambushed by a person with a gun threatening their life and stealing their sales or property. One of the things that we can clearly see is that where it was first considered that people would take certain calculated measures, wait until it's dark, wait until no one's around, make sure there's no security camera, these things no longer matter. What does that represent to you?
You have to understand that when we look at the issue of crime, particularly property crimes, there are several factors that may drive these type of crime to occur. And I will tell you that the police have been operating heavily, particularly on the south side Belize City, which is now Region 1. And our operations in that area have seen the confiscation of drugs in large quantities. And you'll know that many of these young men strive from the sale of drugs. And with the constant operation of police being at their homes, being on their bases, and the sale of drugs is practically cannot be done. And so, as human beings, you will understand that they do have families to feed, and they need to eat. And so what they do now is to try and resort to committing these crimes to be able to get an income. But doing these crimes is also wrong, and so we know must have to put measures in place to be able to address these concerns. And we have been doing that. We have, like you mentioned earlier, the operation on Albert Street, which is Operation Safe Zone, where we have officers posted in that area throughout the business hours. And in the night time, we have our patrols making checks at the different places to ensure that no one goes and break in. And we must also understand that it will require more than just a police effort. So we have also solicited the help of the public in a sense that we have created a WhatsApp group where we now communicate with the business owners on Albert Street and surroundings. And what we do is that we share information. If someone is around looking suspicious, that person is brought in or is stopped, interviewed, searched as the case may be. And if there is nothing to indicate that that person is there to commit any crime, then he's allowed to go. But equally, if we see that the person is there waiting for the opportunity to commit a crime, then we take action in the sense that we remove that person from the area and take them to the police station and do further investigation to see if they have been involved in any of the previous incidents that we may have had in the area. And the result for Albert Street is very good. I must say that since we started that operation, we have not had an incident on Albert Street, and we want to ensure that we continue that effort. After all, downtown Albert Street is our main commercial hub of the country. And so if we have merchants who are reluctant to do business or we have customers who are reluctant to go and shop, then that will put a serious dent on the business sector. And as much as we Belizeans go and shop on Albert Street, we also have the tourists who goes and shop there. And we won't want any incident to occur to any of the tourists, and even the Belizeans, because that itself will send a wrong message, and it will make us look as if we are incompetent, and we're not that.
I really want us to be able to ensure that viewers, whether they own a business or just want to feel safe in their home, feel educated as to what they can do proactively to ensure their safety. And I feel that perhaps there are things that we don't know we are doing wrong, or we're putting ourselves more at risk, so that I don't have a home invasion, or I'm robbed on the street, or somebody comes into my business and robs me.
One of the things we're seeing, particularly when it comes to the robberies of the business establishments, is that most of them are orchestrated from inside. These young men ensure that they get a link from inside these establishments, and they give them the ins and outs, tell them what's the cash flow, where the money is being kept, what time it goes to the bank, and these sort of things, and even know how much money is there at a particular time. And so what we try to encourage business establishments to do is to be careful of who they hire. And not everyone within the establishment must know what your cash flow is, and the time when you take money to the bank, or who takes the money to the bank. And they must try to juggle the time when the money is moved from the establishment to the bank as well. You don't keep one steady time or one steady day. You try to change that. Next thing we try to advise business establishment owners is to ensure that they do vetting, go beyond the police record. While the police record is good, in a sense that it gives you a criminal history of the person, sometimes people have been charged with some serious crime. And we know that they commit the crime, but the fact that there was no witness to go to court and testify against them, they were acquitted. And so the going beyond the police record will give you a more detailed history of that person's background that you may need to know. So try to go beyond that. When it comes to, again, in the business places, try to erect surveillance cameras within your area, and don't put the cameras too high, because if you put it too high, and you see a trend now where the robbers would enter the establishment with a cap, and they would normally look down. So you try to put the camera at eyes height, so that if they have the cap, the camera will still capture their facial, the features of their face. And so those are things that we encourage where business is concerned.
What about the sense of awareness? What are some of the things they have to look at? I know business owners who see people wandering around, wonder if they should report, don't know if somebody's scouting their area.
What I think we have found out as well is that in most of the robbery cases that we have dealt with, where we have surveillance footage, we would see that the culprit would visit the place more than once. And he would go in, walk around, look around, see what is happening. Then while one is inside, one is outside, then they leave and then they come back again. And just to make sure that everything is okay, do the same thing again. Then they would come back the third time and eventually strike. So our thing is that if you see someone entering your place and they're just wandering around, sometimes you ask them questions they don't want to answer, or they're hostile towards you, then that is a sign that you need to be careful of, and you need to call the police.
And home safety.
Yes, home safety now. When it comes to your home safety, again, you need to be careful of who you invite into your home. And sometimes people come to your homes under the guise of a cableman, an electrician, a plumber, and they are legitimate people because they do work with these companies. But they too are involved with these young men, and they will spy and see where you keep your things in your home, and then they give that information to the persons who would perpetrate the robberies or aggravated burglaries, and then they go in and they would normally split the proceeds. So knowing who you bring into your home is important, and even when you do bring people into your home, let them be there for the sole purpose that they're there for. Do not allow them to roam around your house.
How do you not I fully agree with what you're saying, but how do you not, as a businessman, create discrimination?
Profile.
And profiling.
Yeah.
And how do you not, as a civilian, create paranoia? Because the cableman has to come in, the guy who changes the gas tank must come in. How do I not create paranoia? How do I not discriminate?
Like I said, with the latter, nothing is wrong if the cable man comes in, but let him come and deal it only the cable and don't go beyond where the cable is. There is no need for the cable man to go into your bathroom, into your bedroom, unless there is a cable line in your bedroom that also need to be fixed, which I don't think you need to go there because it will not be controlled from there. And if you have a safety deposit area or a chest area, they don't need to see that, right? But sometimes when these people come, we feel so comfortable with them and we allow them to roam around freely.
It's Belize, man. We're
You
trusting
understand me?
people.
Well, times is changing, and we must be cognizant of that fact that time is changing, and we have to be security conscious in whatever we do.
There's another issue. I know for business people, what they have done to amp up security is either to hire a private security firm or to hire off-duty police officers.
Yes.
Now, that creates two issues. One is the security officers, if they are armed, means that the
They're
robbers,
also a target.
they become a target because the robbers come in for two reasons. Either to take away their firearm, to use it in other, because robberies are not just about environment,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
About taking goods from off your shelves or if your cash register. Sometimes it's simply about the firearm that you have.
Yeah.
So that's one issue. And that also means that they have to amp up the force that they come with. So if they were coming with a knife and they know that you have a security officer who has a pump action gun, they also have to bring something super proportionate. So what are the pros and cons of actually hiring somebody from a private security firm? And two, in terms of off-duty police officers, how does this affect the overall health and readiness of the police force? Because when you do these, you already do a 12-hour shift, which is illegal, and then you come again and then you do these night shifts, you must be fatigued. So your performance on the job at that location and as well afterwards, it must be affected.
When it comes to the issue of hiring a security guard with a weapon, I personally don't think it's a bad thing. However, the security guards needs to be alert. And oftentimes when these robberies occurred and security guards' firearms are stolen or taken away, it's because they were inattentive while on duty. This device has become a problem to everybody in the sense that people are now on the work site and instead of doing what they should be doing, they live on the telephone. And that is a problem. And I think that when you as a businessman hire a security guard or even the police to come and work extra for you, tell them to put away the phone because the phone is a real distraction. And you have that right to tell them to put it away. They are working for you. And so while I could understand where you're coming from, because the criminals do need that tool to be able to continue to perpetrate their criminal acts. And when we leave ourselves vulnerable for them to be able to get that tool, then we become a part of the problem too. So being alert at all times is very important.
Yeah. And vetting the firm too,
Yeah.
with how professional they are.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about something you said too, which is, you said you need the help of the community, but is the police force taking on too much? As you said, this is a crime. These are crimes of economic opportunity, and it's interesting, Chester, that to fight crime, measures are taken which actually economically affect the country. For example, the shutting down of businesses from 9 o'clock. So it does, in fact, lock us down, bunker us down, but that means that no economic activity from the merchants happen after that point in time.
Mr. Arthurs, we're the only country in the world that allows business to open until 12 midnight.
We're a unique country, though.
No.
Nothing's wrong with that.
It doesn't matter. And we must understand that time is changing. And the sole reason the establishments want to stay open until 12 midnight is to sell alcohol. We have enough bars that have public and special license that people can go and buy and consume alcohol. We do not need every shop on the street corner to be a bar. And we must understand that that is what is tearing our society apart. Until we begin to look at this the way we should and not as a money-making venture, we are not going to get anywhere. And yes, while the robberies are economic opportunities, I don't think that we're taking on too much, because after all, the police must work in conjunction with the public. There must be that relationship, that bond between us, because at the end of the day, nobody knows a society is ill more than the people who live in the society. We, the police, don't live among those people many a times. Yes, now and then you'll find a police living in the different areas, but as a department, we are not involved in the society's activity per se, that we'll know everything that is happening within the society. And so we must get from them what is happening, and we must work with them to find a solution for their problem.
But I can't let that one slip, because surely you'll agree with me, because you addressed the issue of alcohol, and it might be a distraction to the point that's being made, because a license to open a business, you have different trade licenses, and you can have a trade license. For example, Gaylords on Albert Street, they don't sell alcohol.
No.
So closing down Gaylords at 9.
They don't close.
Not close it down, but encouraging businesses, as I've seen in the past, particularly where police officers have gone around. I don't know where they.
We close the
grocery stores.
Yes.
Can I just say
And there
there,
is
though,
a-
because we've had this conversation with the Chamber of Commerce, and they're also trying to tackle it, where people, for example, on Albert Street, want to close early because of lack of security.
Correct.
Well, they would like to open
Yes,
later, but people don't come out because of lack of security, because they don't feel safe. I think that's the larger issue here, and I don't think we should miss the opportunity to have a very open and frank conversation about it. People in this city, let me say this city because that's where I live, that's my personal vantage point, don't feel safe. Whether they've been a victim of crime, whether they watch the nightly news, whether they just hear or see comments on Facebook, people don't feel safe moving around. They don't feel safe going to nightly events. That when there are concerts coming up, you have two schools of thought. Should we go? What if something happens? Any public event for that matter. And that is a serious concern. One, we have seen an increase in shootings over the years. And I would say the last decade. Over the last decade, that's where we went over 100 murders. And it simply erodes the sense of personal security that we have moving around. From the police standpoint, where are we missing the ball on this issue?
You see, I don't want to justify Belize, but
The city.
the country in a whole. But you would also appreciate that this phenomena of murder and violent behavior is not only Belize, it is worldwide, and especially within the Caribbean region. I can tell that we in Belize have been doing well in terms of tackling these issues, and if you want to be honest.
But what's your measure of well? What's your measure of doing well?
I'll get to that
I'm
right
afraid
now.
of this.
I'll get to that right now. If you want to be honest, you will attest to the fact that over the past 2-3 months, we have seen a significant reduction in these type of incidents. Because
In murders?
Yes, murders.
Last month?
Yeah, because
saw a reduction.
we are really and truly going at it. Our officers have many sleepless nights. We're out there trying to address the issues, and we're making significant strides where that is concerned. Now, as it relates to the fact that we're seeing increase in crimes and these sort of things, the fact that we allow every shop at the street corner to sell alcohol is a contributing factor to those issues. And those are some of the social ills that we must address.
Let me ask, because what you're making is an important point. I think the challenge that we have, because Kevin will challenge you on it, is that we don't have the data. And I've asked this before to the police department, to NDAC. How many times does the investigation include the contributory factor of alcohol or drugs to a shooting, to a murder, to a stabbing?
I can answer you.
But do we have the data?
Of course we do. More than 50% of our shooting victims have been persons who are hanging out at that Chinese establishment drinking.
Where's the statistics?
But that's victim.
have it.
What about perpetrators?
Well, the thing is, if the victim is not there hanging out,
Then they be shot
like-
somewhere else.
No, you don't know that. Many a times they know who the target is.
Exactly.
So they
Belize is
will
so
not just
small.
shot anybody.
It doesn't matter where you
So
are.
if we remove the person from off the streets, from hanging out, and you would know that as an attorney,
Yes.
loitering is an offense. These establishments don't have license for the sale and consumption of alcohol on the premises. They have, right now, they have license for alcohol to be sold in sealed containers and to be carried away. But we're seeing where, because they want to make money, they want the customer to remain and spend more, they're now selling the alcohol open, or they give it sealed. The man sit outside, open it, and consume it. If we want to see our society improve,
But it's illegal.
It is, of course.
So the police can intervene.
Right? Of course, and we do. If we want to see a change in behavior and a change in the status quo, we must accept that we need to do things in accordance with the law and enforce the law.
But I hear what you're saying. In other words, removing the opportunity
Yes.
is important.
It
and,
is.
and you do have the mandate to do that. People aren't allowed to drink outside of an
Exactly.
establishment, all the stores. And funny enough, a lot of these grocers are actually targets as well for robberies. But is the solution to minimizing crime removing yourself as a possible victim, or is the solution looking at the actions of the perpetrators? In other words, if I want to remove the opportunity of ever being a victim of crime, I can stay locked in my home.
Never go.
Well,
But
we do.
The real action, I would imagine, is looking at where the motive is, looking at what tools are available, and also some sort of surveillance that there can be an intervention before the person goes and shoots the gun or does whatever other
And
action.
that's the point I'm getting to now.
Okay.
That we do more than just that. We do our interventions, and our interventions are very, very effective. And because interventions give us an opportunity to hear what the concerns of the parties are, and it also gives the parties an opportunity to know exactly what the issues are. And most importantly, it gives them the opportunity to find a solution to the problem. Because in interventions and mediations, the rules are, we as facilitators are not the one who must find the solution. It is the parties. We just facilitate the process. And so it is good when we do these things, because it helps us and it helps them to be able to deal with the issue. And we must understand that even though we do interventions, we must also put other precautions in place. It's just like if you go to the doctor and you have cancer. The doctor will cut out the cancer. But does it stop there? No. They continue to give you medication, therapy, to be able to ensure that the cancer is healed completely. So the same process applies here. We do interventions, we do mediations, and at the end of the day, we maintain our police presence in the area to ensure that whatever have been agreed in interventions and mediations are upheld by the parties. And sometimes, if it is that one party would want to go and do contrary to what has already been agreed, the police presence in the area will mitigate that as well. And the fact that we do not allow people to hang out on the street corner drinking will also mitigate against that. And I will tell you, I offer no apology to have my officers remove persons from off the streets who are drinking and who are loitering. It is against the law, and we are going to enforce the law where that is concerned.
I'm fully with you. And let me start by saying that I think that the society is on the side of the police. Let me start there, because it might seem otherwise. But that is not a carte blanche check to do anything that the police wants to do.
It's not
my concern. Hold on.
I have to make it clear, because
Surely,
you want to give the impression as if what the police is doing is illegal.
No.
And I'm telling you, it is not illegal. So don't say.
Let me finish what I'm going to say and ask, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to not be defensive and answer.
I'm not being defensive, I'm being real.
So, and to be real, defensively. So, I can do this just, he's my friend, so I can do this, no? But on a serious note, Chester, what I hear, probably I have an untuned ear, is I'm very concerned when the police, I'm not saying Chester Williams, as big as you are and as effective as you are not the police.
I'm a small man, I'm not big.
I like that.
Just like you.
I like
small.
that. I smile at you. But as big as you are, you're not the police. But I have significant concerns when there's this suggestion that the police create a boogeyman. It used to be gang warfare, old beef. And once you create these buzzwords, it focuses the society. I guess it's a very good PR tool. And alcohol is, yes, it is a contributing factor. But if we take alcohol off the street, we're still going to have murders. We're still going to have crime. So as much as I hear the direct approach being now to focusing on alcohol in what you're telling us, it won't solve the problem. The second thing I have a significant problem with is New York, one of the most buzzing metropolis in the world, and has a huge crime rate as well. 24 hours a day it operates. This idea of creating a curfew society is unacceptable to me. As much as you make no apologies for the police doing what they're doing and doing their jobs, at the same time, this suggestion that I won't go out, that somehow at 9 o'clock, going out on your step is somehow the worst thing, that cannot be where the policymakers and the police want to take us in.
Where do you hear of a curfew?
If you're telling us that you don't want people out on the street, hanging out and being sociable, because really and truly we can color it in more than one ways. It can either be that they're loitering.
Section 4 of the summary judicial offences clearly states it is an offense for anyone to loiter on any road or any public space.
Absolutely.
So if the police are clearing people from off the streets who are loitering,
yes,
the police is not creating a curfew. If the police are telling people not to public drink, the police is not creating a curfew. Can you tell me if the police have ever stopped you and tell you at night or anytime, Mr. Arthur, you cannot be on the street? A curfew means that you clear the street of everybody. You do not allow people to be out. We do not do that.
We've had at least 2 curfews.
For children.
For children.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, that is complying with the law.
Okay. Because I don't want us to waste time just trying to have you two argue one point. So we have to go back to this.
We don't argue,
Whatever it is, lawyering. So I think that the fundamental point here, because we have to get back to what we can do to ensure public safety. And Kevin mentioned a point that is important. I get the impression oftentimes that when we speak about crime, maybe not you personally, but representatives of the department feel that it's a personal attack. And it goes into a defensive mode instantaneously. And what you mentioned very early on is important. It is a symbiotic relationship. You can't get information about crime unless you have people.
Yeah,
and the people need you to keep us safe. Yeah. And so it's not even collaboration. There's a need for each other. So when the people of this city say, whether a perception that is wrong or right, we don't feel safe, something has to be done. And I feel it appears that perhaps we are not looking or we're not digging deeper to the source of the problems, and we're kind of doing this guessing game. Maybe we can, lighten up on some of the drug crimes so these guys don't feel like killing or robbing. Maybe we can offer some financial incentives to gang members so they don't have to shoot or rob. Maybe we can move people out of the public drinking areas, but nothing seems to have worked. And I admit, I will tell you statistics, I have the statistics. Last month we saw a reduction in murders, but there still is, I won't say nightly because it would be an exaggeration, a very frequent shooting incident happening where the bullet just misses its target. There was a story, and I want to bring this because this is important. There was a story that the teen reporters from the NCFC did talking about how crime affects children. And having been a part of the editing process, we could only leave in so much. Children cannot move around outside of their homes. One of the children interviewed, which didn't make it to the story, said at 4 p.m. she's not allowed to leave the house anymore. 4 p.m. she does her last shop run, come back in 5 o'clock, they lock up because there is a possibility that a stray bullet may catch her.
Marlene, how a person feels about crime is how that person feels. And our duty as the police is to do what we can to make the society safe. But may I remind you that making the society safe is not the sole responsibility of the police. Each and every one of us have a civic duty to ensure that we do what is right to keep our society safe. And whenever we have incidents occurring that hampers or cause a person to feel unsafe, we try to do what we can to make it better. And I can tell you, the merchants on Albert Street were very much frustrated. They were practically in a state of panic because of 2 robberies that had occurred in the area. And we went in, we did what we have to do, and if you would take the time and go and interview them now, they will tell you that business on Albert Street is bright, it is increasing, people are now coming around, people feel more safer shopping, and the merchants also feel better doing their business. But is that sufficient? I would say no. Yes, we'd want everybody to feel safe, but you must understand too that the perception of crime is worse than crime itself, right? So once that perception is there, it won't be something that we can take away overnight. It will take a process for us to be able to work with people, with the community, to get them to the point where, you know, they can say, well, we're seeing improvement coming from the police. And anyone who wants to be truthful about the whole situation will admit that the police are doing a lot. We're doing more than we should to be able to address the issues, right? And we will continue to do that because at the end of the day, by doing those things, it makes our job more easier. We can sit on the corner and say, we're going to wait for this one to do that or that one to do that. No. And when it comes to the persons who are out there perpetrating criminal acts, I do not agree, and I will never support paying anybody to behave. You have a right to be a good citizen, so we are not going to pay nobody to behave. And I have not been a part of any process where we're paying anybody to behave. I do believe that if you want a job in Belize, you can get a job. But many of the persons who are out there who are committing these crimes, they don't want to work. They want easy money. And so easy money for them is going to rob or to sell drugs. And we have to find a way to deal with them. So to say that...
But is it dealing with them when they have already committed the act? That's where it's... And I have to challenge you on this perception issue because understandably, April, May, and June, there were less murders. In March, there were 21. More than half, were in Belize City alone. This is not a perception. This is a reality.
Yes, it is a reality in some areas, Marlene. But like I said to you, we saw a change in ministry. We saw a change on the grounds in Belize City, and that shows the government will to make the situation better. The new team came in, and we're working night and day to address the issue. That is not an indictment on the persons who were here before, because we must understand that the issue of fighting crime is a complex one.
Yes.
And there is no one solution.
No.
There is no nothing that we can do that will be able to eliminate all our problems. Never. And so we have to look at it and try to deal with it incrementally. We try to set a target each and every month as we go along to see how we can reduce the murder count. And as much as it is also a reality that the murder count currently is more than it was last year. I am telling you, we're trying our utmost best, and I will commend our officers out there who are doing the utmost best to ensure that we meet our target. And our target is to ensure that this year we do not have more murders than last year. And we are going to fight.
It means a lot of work for the second half because we're more than last year.
Marlene, it is not impossible.
I don't think,
right?
and we said it before, I don't think it's to say the police aren't doing their jobs. I personally can't say that. But, and maybe we could put you in the seat of the ultimate decision maker, and you can perhaps, because you are on the ground. When you're out there, your reality is different from those of us who are sitting and watching from the cheap seats. There must be something that perhaps we are not paying attention to or investigating further. Thankfully, we were able to get a study commissioned on gangs in Belize. One that, other than Dr. Gale's report, hadn't been done before. And so now we're trying to get into the understanding and of why these criminal elements function the way they do. But From your perspective, if there was something that you would like to implement or shift in our approach to addressing crime, what would that be that you feel would be most effective?
Well, I think the most effective thing is parenting. Because if you start from home in raising your children in the right way and to monitor what your children are doing, that is a significant inroad. And we have found that many a times the children are condoned, the activities are condoned by the parent, in the sense that the parents don't pay attention, and whenever the police moves in to deal with their kids, they find out kind of excuse, knowing that the excuses that they're finding is not true. So I would start with parenting, ensure that parents play a role, more active role in the lives of their children. And parents cannot allow or accept their children to be raised by the streets. It is not good. And the next thing that we need to do is to get God more involved in our lives. People need to go to church, be more spiritual in what we do, right? Because at the end of the day, without God, we cannot achieve nothing, because He's the ultimate authority, right? So
I agree with both of those, Chester, but both of those are
we must have
outside.
more love in a society, Kevin.
I agree with
Right?
all three of those, love, God, and parenting. But all three of them are significantly outside of the payroll of most police officers. So from the standpoint of what the police can do in terms of what would you implement from a police standpoint, what would you say?
Well, I think that we're doing what we can do, and even more than what we should do. So we as a police department, we are doing our fair share.
Yes.
And above our fair share.
So you see, there's nothing that we can implement.
Parents
differently.
now need to play their role. They are the biggest factors. Remember, a child learned from their parents. They're influenced by their parents, right? The parent is the most influential person in the life of a child. So they have to play their role.
So
Agreed. So, I mean, I find it, I really thought that perhaps having had the experience that you had, you'd have some ideas as to what you would really love to see. For example, is it that we need a better trained police force? Is it that we need better investigative skills? Is it that we need more police officers so that the load that the individual officers are carrying is not as heavy as it is now?
Marlene, we will always need more police officers. The society is growing. The demand for police is increasing. But we also have to try to find ways and means as to how to work within what we have, and we have been doing that. For some reason or the other, people believe that our police officers are not well trained. I would beg to differ. Our officers, they're not well trained, but they're trained reasonably enough. And Kevin will tell you, as an attorney who has been in the courts, that the issue of cases going down in our courts is not attributed to the incompetence of the police. It is contributed to the society. People who don't want to go to court and testify. Our police investigation is, for the most part, well put together, right, Mr. Arthurs? And so,
Well, we've heard the DPP say otherwise, but I want to.
I don't know about that.
I want to follow up on that because, okay, so you're saying they're adequately trained. There's a curriculum that officers who are entering into the force
I'm not saying that we
receive.
don't need more training.
So
because we
let
always
me
need
ask
more
a question.
training,
When
right?
was that last
from this realism.
updated or revised, given the new context? In other words, when you were in police training academy, the crimes you were coming
Every
out to
year.
fight were totally different.
Every year it is revised. Every year. Yeah. We have a training unit that ensures that the curriculum is revised every year. And we also do it in conjunction with University of Belize.
just yes, I will agree that the officers that I see who are prosecuting are trying their best. They're engaged, and I see them making strides. In fact, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've seen the difference between them coming to court with cases now, case law. So I would differ with the DPP, and I would join with the police on that one. But where I'd like to go is we've seen some success in terms of businesses and in terms of areas which were target and hot points. For example, the Marine Parade
Yes.
area. There was a time when that was out of order, and we saw where that has been
There's much more
minimized.
patrol.
Yeah.
Duplicating that in other areas, what lessons from that project can we take to expand a little? Because listen, to my mind, Chester, crime will always be here.
Yeah.
40% poverty,
Yeah.
impossible. That's one thing. And I want to load in the other one so I can shoot it in there quickly. We have issues with entrapment in Belize, but I have seen where you were having a back and forth with Marlene over whether or not the police were being reactive or
Proactive.
proactive. From this standpoint, surely, the style of policing that we've been had is two-pronged. We've just seen the development and evolution of effective police intervention. But there are two other components, which if I were to answer Melene's question, I would have thought would have been in the consideration of the top brass of the police. One is the increase in forensic force in terms of being able to solve crimes, to get back up the confidence of the public to the point where they say, yes, I will help the police. And the second thing is entrapment. I was watching a documentary, and please allow me, because I want to hear your opinion on it. I was watching a documentary on CBS where they actually staged bicycles in New York, because it was a spate of bicycle theft in New York. And they implemented a little chip into the frame of the bike. And they were able to study where the bicycles were going, how they were being moved in different areas, and they were able to crack down on it. And it went down. Why have we not taken, is that something that we can do in Belize? Why have we not taken, that is proactive.
Or innovative.
Or innovative. Why have we not changed the simple, stand up outside,
Yeah.
Miss Jenny, how Junior Jakes to do?
Yeah.
You still get trouble? Why have we not taken, and I know you're a very innovative guy. I've seen you on Facebook doing your thing. I've seen you in court doing your thing. But why have we not taken the step to a new place, to shock criminals and say, man,
Shift strategies.
But we do that. In
We have
terms
done
of,
that?
of course. We
man,
interact.
Chester, stop it.
Right now.
For God's sake.
Right now, let me explain to you. I have no reason to come and sit here and lie. Right? We interact with the public a lot.
Yes.
And we do home visits for different reasons. We have for the elderly to ensure that they're okay.
Yeah.
And we have follow-ups with children. And even with CRD, Community Rehab Department, we work a lot with them in doing follow-up with kids. So when we do intervention with children, we have the follow-up sessions where the police or CRD officer goes into the home and check on the child to ensure that the child is doing what he or she is supposed to be doing. So going to mommy or granny and say, how so-and-so do, we do that as well.
Yes.
When
Important.
it comes to entrapment now, I'm sure as an attorney you would agree with me again that entrapment is a crime. You cannot engage a person to do something that he or she would not normally do.
Yeah.
So going to the extent of entrapting people is a criminal offense. We cannot do that, right? Yes, what we can do is to do surveillance.
It would be called a sting operation in Belize. That's the legally correct term. But you know what I'm speaking about.
Or we can do surveillance. We can do a sting operation, and a sting operation is different than entrapment.
You remember that incident with Chosan?
I'm not going to discuss. That's before a tribunal right
No.
now, so I won't
Well,
discuss it.
well, I'm not going to discuss the details of it, but that was in fact a setup. I mean, in terms of the offenders were put in a position where it's hard for them to say that it wasn't me.
Well, I like I said, it's before a tribunal. I'm not going to discuss that.
Okay.
But we do also do sting operations. And sting operations would be in situations where we know something is about to go down, and we'd go into the area and wait out, and then the person comes, we capture them. We also do that as well.
I want to bring this back to proactive measures that the community can do as well. There is, and you worked up, you head up professional standards, you know very well that there are quite a few incidents that have been alleged by the public, whether it's police brutality, excessive force, whether, whatever the incident is. And so there's a mistrust that has developed in particular sectors. If we go back to the chaos that ensued between the GSU and one particular community that was videoed and streamed, and I think it is very obvious that there is, in some areas, a very abrasive relationship with the police. The challenge that presents is that if I am from that area, I don't like police, I don't trust police, and I know something is going to happen, or I know someone has an intention to do something, well, that is my civic responsibility to report it, to possibly prevent it. I won't go to my enemy and report it.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what can be done in this specific area. I will never walk away and say that we don't have a role. If I know Kevin said he going to go shoot up everybody in court today, I must report it. That is my job.
You sure that no? You're not
It's an
telling that?
interesting example.
He didn't
It's a
say.
very interesting example.
He didn't say, just to be clear.
I'm about to take into custody now, Kevin.
Right? But it is my responsibility because whatever happens,
Yeah.
I am also a part of it.
Yeah.
And if you go back to the Bible, it's a sin of omission. But not everybody is somebody who believes in God, so we just say it is
Yeah.
our responsibility. So my point is, what do we do to change the perspective? And especially in a society where even from the little ones are saying, you can't be a snitch.
Well, the fact that you have the little ones in the community saying that you can't be a snitch, that is something that has been inculcated in their head from home.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the activities of the parent in the home. But to answer your question in terms of that relationship between the police and the public, we understand and we recognize the fact that it is important for us to have a good relationship with the public. And you can see over the years, we have been doing a lot in community policing to be able to bridge that divide between us and the public. And again, that too, we don't expect that overnight we'll get the public singing Kumbaya with us. It will take some time. It's just like when you are in a courting situation, it takes time before you develop that trust and confidence in the person that is courting you. And so the same process would occur. And it is for us to be able to ensure we're consistent in what we do, to show the public that we're serious about ridding ourselves of police abuse, because police abuse should not be constant in any way, shape, or form. And the Commissioner of Police and our Minister now have been harping at us to ensure that while, yes, we have a job to do out there, we must respect the rights of people. And if we want the public to work with us, we cannot be abusing them and then tell them to work with us. It won't work.
Just so that's a beautiful place for me to jump in. And let me take off every other hat and put on the Vice President of the Human Rights Commission hat. There's pressure on the police department to produce. And some of the techniques that have been used are illegal, unconstitutional, and they still persist. Now, as follow-up to Marlene's question, which was that basically you need the community. And I want to address this particular issue, the issue of persons being stopped because they have on a short pants and their hair is, they're black and they're coming out of a certain area and they're stopped, not doing anything, not riding up, stop anything. They just look like somebody who the police think is somebody who should be stopped. They're profiled, they're photographed, and that photograph, they ask their name, their phone number, and the photo and information is WhatsApp to some database. Could you kindly address what that is about and whether or not that practice, and do not deny it, or I will bring affidavits of persons
I can answer.
who have so been done. That is
Like I said to you,
unconstitutional.
that is an argument that can be had. But let me go
As to
and
whether
answer
it's
a question.
constitutional?
Let me answer a question. First and foremost, the police have an idea as to who majority of the criminals are. And when I say criminal, I mean in the sense that they have been convicted in a court of law. We have an idea, like Marlene have said earlier in our introduction, that there are people out there who are committing robberies. We know who they are. So if we see them anywhere, we are going to stop them. While the Constitution do provide us with certain fundamental rights and freedom, you as an attorney will appreciate the fact,
Walk carefully.
right now, will appreciate the fact that those rights and freedom comes with limitation. And one of such limitation is national security or public safety. So when we go and we stop and search a person who the public may have called to say is in their area behaving in a suspicious manner, or they have seen them with something, and we go after them, we are doing exactly what we should be doing to ensure that we prevent that person or any other person from committing any crime. Going to the issue as it relates to the picture taking and
Photographing,
the photographing.
the WhatsApping to us.
You are saying that it goes into a database. I, for one, don't know of any database, and I can tell you that. The pictures that are taken are normally sent to...
It's
right now,
illegal,
let me explain to you, man. We're not here to argue. You have spoken, I listen. No, please let me answer you.
Go ahead.
No.
You're the boss.
No boss here. No.
You're wrong, but you're the boss.
It goes to
Yeah.
the WhatsApp group, and where officers are on, and what they do is that to see if the person is wanted, and at the end of the, not the day, at the end of the week, that entire WhatsApp discussion is,
No, let me just get
Is
one
deleted.
question in here.
Please.
right? So there is,
Are your officers aware that I have a right to say no?
of course, and we tell them that.
Do they respect it?
Well, sometimes they don't, and when they don't respect it, like for example, I know of 2 cases where they took the person to the station and want to lock them down. I tell them, no, you cannot do that.
So we can say that on TV.
Yes.
You are agreeing that if an officer pulls out a phone and says they want to take a photograph of me, I can say no.
You can say no.
I would do
And they
this.
are not allowed to do it.
No, they are not. If it is that the person is saying no, they cannot force the person and they cannot lock down the person for that.
And they can hold them in a chokehold if they
No.
don't.
Just
Marlene, it's not everything that you hear we must believe. There are many things that are said out there that is not true, and there are many things that are said that is true. And we have to be able to decipher the information and know what is garbage from what is good.
Let's talk about garbage. What is garbage? Surely, and this I am saying for the public's benefit. The police, I absolutely agree with you. Let's start from where we agree, and then I'll start up where we radically disagree and where the police is setting itself up for not only offending the public, but for court cases. There's a constitutional right, yes, and those are qualified, yes. The only qualification to those constitutional rights that you're speaking about is that the police's power comes from the Police Act, which is that their only right to stop and search is there's a reasonable belief that a crime either has been committed
Or it's about
or is about to be committed. Nothing else. In fact, there's no difference between a civilian and a police officer. Both can arrest. Nowhere there allows you to be able to take anybody's photograph, to even stop them. Even if I am, God bless the Juni Balls, and I'm walking around, nothing allows the police to stop me and take my picture and frisk me down. Nothing. And even under the Police Act, Section 16, hear me out. When somebody is actually arrested and charged, it's duty of the police, when they are found not guilty, if that is so the case, to destroy their records in their presence.
Section 20 of the Police
Right?
Act.
No.
And,
So listen. Even if you go that way, an extension of it is stopping law-abiding drivers on the road and taking their particulars. You can't do that. That's illegal. And you can't tell me it's done to criminals because
Mr. Arthurs,
I am who I am, and I am no criminal. And I had to argue with the police officers, who one of them actually pointed a top brass officer, I won't call that officer's name, as being responsible for why they're taking it down. So we're talking about trust with the police, but the police are doing things which offend the trust of the public.
you are arguing something.
I'm not arguing.
Right now, that I already told Marlene that the police can't force you to take a picture. I already said that to Marlene.
The fact that the practice
Right
even
now.
exists.
Right?
It's
I already
offensive.
explained that already. And secondly, when it comes to the issue of stopping somebody,
Yes.
the Constitution is clear again, like you rightly alluded to.
Yes.
The police can detain you if the police believe that you have or is about to commit an offense. The police power to search is wider. And there is a good case out of Jamaica, the case of Gary and the DPP, which clearly outlined in it what is to be considered as reasonable suspicion.
There's a local case as well.
Good.
Mr.
So,
Mr.
when it,
Sylvester did the case.
Okay.
when it comes to the issue as it pertains to...
It's being abused,
Right
Chester,
now,
man. The
man,
longer
let me
form.
finish, man. Let me finish. When it comes to when the police stop a person on the street and search them,
Or nobody's.
In many instances, as far as I am concerned, the police have reasonable cause to do so. What you may not know is that for the most part when police go out and search people, that because somebody from within that community have called the police and make a complaint because of some concern. Now we are talking about making our communities safer. But when we see the police doing what we need to do to keep the community safe, we have an issue. We cannot have our cake and eat it.
No,
Let me
Right.
interrupt the court case that's happening, right?
It's-
So here's what I want to hear.
a
What I
harassment
hear
line.
from you. The stop and search is legal.
Yes.
You have the right to do that.
Yeah.
But civilians should know that you have every right to refuse and report any particulars, any photograph that is taken from you. The police is not allowed to do that. Why not just tell them stop?
Why not tell the officers that?
Yeah. Stop attempting to do so.
For the most part, the photographs do help the police in a sense, like I said earlier. Like I said earlier, Kevin, if you think it is illegal, then take a matter to court.
Okay.
And let the court decide on it.
Listen.
Okay.
Listen.
Right?
We're not in court.
wait,
We're
yeah.
not in court. I gotta get this question answered. Let me finish it. Yeah.
Right?
Why not just tell them stop?
It is important because we have what you call transient criminals. They move from point A to point B and they commit crime, not only in Belize City, but across the country.
Yeah.
Right? And it is important for our officers, not only in Belize City, but across the country, to know exactly who those persons are who are out there committing these robberies.
name.
And like I said earlier,
Can I please get this?
Kevin, like I said to you,
Please
okay.
get this one.
if you think the police are
Can I
wrong,
please
take
get
the
this
matter to court and let the court decide on
Gentlemen,
it. It's a constitutional matter.
Gentlemen,
Can I please get this
in
one
the
in?
interest of time, we got to wrap it up. And I know you guys will continue this, maybe in court,
I wanted
possibly.
to
But I think we need to close off, and I appreciate you being here and addressing these issues. And I always respect the fact that you will come to the media and address any question that is asked. But we got to close off in helping people understand that there are attempts being made to return to what we feel is a safer society and to minimize the spate of violence that we are seeing in this country, not just Belize City. And I want you to close off with that point for us, Chester.
Okay. Thanks, Marlene.
You're not telling me too? Yeah, beef with the beef.
thank you. I understand.
We will go with this rum and
Okay,
agree with the
okay,
strike.
okay.
Yeah. Yes. As a police department, we continue to do our best working with the public to see how we can not rid ourselves, but to minimize the occurrences of crime within our society. There's a lot being done by us with a view to make the situation better. But like I said before, it is not a battle that we can win alone. It needs the assistance of the public. And everybody must play a role in ensuring that what we want to achieve at the end of the day is achieved. And we do this in conjunction with other organizations, government and non-governmental organizations. We have our community policing efforts that we push on a daily basis, and I will commend our officers in that unit, Mr. Carcamo, Mr. Hyde, for the excellent job that they have been doing in ensuring that we maintain that relationship with the public. And we now also have Mr. Gillett in Belize City, who have his own style of community policing, which also helps in trying to bridge that divide between us and the public. Yes, I know it's a tough one because there are many wounds out there that needs to be healed, but I believe that with time and being consistent at what we're doing, we'll be able to heal those wounds. We have a new Minister of National Security again, and he is very much in touch with what we do. He comes on the ground, he feeds the officers. It's a form of motivation. Those things goes a very, very long way. And he wants to see that at the end of the day, the crime in our country is reduced, particularly the murders, right? It does not mean that we stray away from the others, as I have said. We have several things that we're doing to address the robberies. And while I discuss the issue on Albert Street with the safe zone, we also have Mr. Moody over this side of the city who also have his own operation in place to be able to address the robberies on Region 2. So right across the city, We have things in place to be able to deal with these things. But we must understand that no matter what we do, we'll not be able to stop all robberies from occurring. There will still be one and two that will slip through the cracks, and I'm sure the society can understand that. As it relates to countrywide, because I do have a national responsibility, I am in dialogue with my commanders across the country, and we encourage them to put things in place to be able to alleviate the situation. And one of the things that they must do is to zone off the area of responsibility and assign police officers in the different zones, and we try to increase our business visits. Whenever the police go and visit these business establishments, it's a deterrent, because once the criminals see the police going there, they will think twice to want to go there and commit a crime as well. So we try to do more business visits. We ask the business places to put books in place to be able to have the officers sign, and we can see how often they go to these places. And we encourage people to, especially business places, to tap into our camera surveillance system, the street surveillance system. It is excellent. It works well for us. We have been able to capture many things on those footages that will be used in court later on, and we want to expand it across the city. We have a lot on the south side already. We now want to bring it over to north side or region 2, and so I want to call upon the business sector of this side of the city to join with us in this very useful endeavor. And my friend Kevin, thank you. I think the discussion is healthy.
He was going to be hurt, if you didn't say thank you.
And we'll meet in court on that issue. Let the court decide a constitutional matter.
Okay. I won't respond. I wanted to tell you what I wanted to tell you here.
Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the 5th anniversary of the Welcome Resource Center. So stay tuned.